Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening up in the sky above us for the week ahead. This is the very last few days of November, heading into December, the last month of 2023. It just is gobsmacking how fast this month actually went by, how fast this year went by. It's just amazing to me. So, good morning to all my friends out there. I already see Natasha. Blessings to you as well, my friend. Pam Zaruba, good morning to you. And Tom Wright, hello there to you and anybody else behind the scenes that I do not see yet. So, today, of course, the biggest news was the full moon this morning at 1:16 a.m. Pacific time. 4:16 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast of the USA. And I would love to say it was a beautiful moon, but it is totally cloudy, foggy. I didn't get to see it. Although, of course, every night leading up to this night of the full moon, I got to see it, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It is the Gemini full moon, and you might have noticed that you feel more like talking or communicating or are resisting communicating. So, today we're going to talk about that full moon and how we can use the energy of that moon to move forward. And then as well, there are some interesting aspects coming up from that full moon, one of which, of course, was the moon in an opposition to Mars, which we'd already talked about because we've had a lot of Martian kind of energies with the sun opposing Mars, or conjunct Mars, and Mars and the sun both, that were in a square to Pluto. So we've had our ups and downs, going on with this planet Mars. And here, with that being involved in the full moon, it can add some conflict to everything that we're feeling, some conflict to our conversations, to an element of conflict entering into our families, into our relationships, and emotions that we didn't expect to be so aggressive or assertive coming up in our lives. Of course, we're going to talk more about that. And then we also have the Mercury square Neptune, also a part of the full moon, but lasting for a bit longer. And that just kind of mucks up the waters, girls and guys. It makes it seem like we don't know what to say, that we're tongue tied, that our minds get lost in the shuffle. So how do we deal with all of that for the next couple of days? And then as well, yesterday, quietly behind the scenes, Jupiter changed gates, moving into a gate called responsibility in traditional human design and accountability in the quantum human design system. And that means for the next close to 30 days, we have a new theme, moving through the collective, moving through society, let's call it. And we'll talk about that and how that impacts us individually. And then, let's see, lastly, I was thinking of something else. Mercury moved into the shadow of its next retrograde cycle. That happened on Friday, the 24th. And of course, the next retrograde cycle begins December 13th, where the little messenger planet will retrograde at 8 degrees of Capricorn, move back all the way to 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So we have earth and fire involved in the retrograde cycle. So, that's a lot, right? Seems like a lot. So let's break it all down. First, there are some new people I see checking in with us this morning. Of course, Terry and Teddy, thank you for joining me. Narges, good morning to you. Lo, it's always so good to see you out there. Tom says Beaver Moon, and it was cloudy. I'm taking it that you didn't get to see the moon either. Jamon, good morning to you. Leslie, it's great to have you with us from Denver. Holy impact from the Batman. Catherine, hello to you. And Leslie Arboleda, also from Denver, Colorado area. I wonder if you two know each other. That would be fun. So, welcome to all of you that are joining us. And also, I always forget this, but this broadcast live right now is getting broadcast onto Spotify and onto all of the different blog post sites. And so some of you may be listening to this later. And if so, welcome to you as well. Let's start with the full moon, shall we? Because it's the biggest news going in the world at the moment. And in the full moon, it's a Gemini full moon, right? So that means the sun is in Sagittarius, and the full moon is when the sun and moon are in opposition to one another, Earth in the middle, right? And that means then the moon has to be in Gemini at the full moon. So today's full moon in Gemini brings us this energy of duality, right? Duality, the sign of the twins, two sides to everything, right? If there's one side facing us, then there's another side that's not facing us. And one that is observable and one that is not observable, perhaps. One that is inner, one that is outer. Duality, right? Everything is about duality with the twins. And curiosity, another theme for the full moon, being curious enough to take the next step in information gathering or to take the next step in your lives in general, right? What's the next step? Now, Gemini is also a mutable sign. Mutable means that it is a sign of flexibility, easily adapting to changing circumstances, being able to sort of be the chameleon that can change its colors based on the environment that it is in. So these are all different things that are a part of the Gemini experience. But of course, the major function of anything in Gemini is communication, right? Speaking, writing, acting, all of the ways that we communicate, nonverbal, verbal especially, but all of the communication. And I always have to remind not only myself, but everybody else that when we have communication as an issue, we also have listening as the other side of that coin, right? So, duality, right? Communication is the active energy here, and listening is more of the inactive. It is the more passive energy. It is the I'm listening to what you have to say, and then hopefully you are listening to what it is that I have to say, right? And we take our turns. The native times they had a talking stick, right? And the person who had the talking stick was the one that got to communicate while the others all listened, and then it would get passed around, right? So make sure that listening as much of an energy of communication for you in everything that you do during this time. Now, the Gemini full moon also prompts us to express our thoughts and our feelings with more clarity, and maybe helping others and ourselves understand at a deeper level something that is going on around us. It's a time to embrace open dialogue, not shut yourselves down. This is time to embrace that dialogue, even if it's difficult, and to connect with the world around us. So I noticed in my own family over the weekend, people pulling away, and a natural reaction perhaps to some, very tricky energies that we're moving through. But pulling away is not the answer here. It is definitely not. The full moon meant to help us release behaviors that are of that kind, right? Where we pull out, where we refuse to discuss, where we cut ourselves off from others in the world. Now, that moon is not without challenges. Of course, most of the time, there's always the challenge. And the moon forms aspects during this time, still activated right now, even though the full moon actually happened 7 hours ago. And that urges us to find a balance between opposing forces, right? These are maybe conflicting energies. The moon, emotional, the moon, introverted, intuitive, instinctual, and the planet Mars in opposition to that moon, that is more assertive, even aggressive at times, and not patient, right? Moving things, wanting to move things forward. So that opposition is something that we have to balance. during this period of time. And the dance of these opposites reminds us that growth often arises from conflict or from navigating different or contrasting perspectives. We don't grow if all we ever hear is what we believe to be true. Sometimes we have to have an opposite message so that we can take in more of the information, perhaps, or the energy of that opposition so that we can feel our way into um, a new perspective, right? Not cutting off a perspective because we don't want to hear it. La, 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 la. Can't do that. We have to be able to hear it all. It doesn't mean that we have to like it, and it doesn't mean that we have to agree with everything, but we have to be open to taking it in and understanding it from other perspectives. It's how we grow. Now, the moon was also in a wide square to Saturn. And when I say wide, the moon was at 7 degrees 58 minutes of Gemini, and Saturn squaring that position, but from 0 degrees of Pisces. Sagittarius and Gemini, that axis is square to the Virgo Pisces axis. So while it wasn't exact, and it wasn't really all that close, it was still powerful enough to create the need for us to have more patience and have more self-discipline in our lives, to avoid that reckless behavior that could be prompted by Mars in the opposition to the moon. So we don't want to have regrettable words. We don't want to have that conflict hanging between us. We want to be able to move through it all. We want to be able to establish peace. And in the backdrop of this full moon, we want to consider the role of adaptability in our lives. Are we stuck in a rut? Or are we available to adapt, to move, to change, to expand our horizons in some way, to adjust and evolve in response to the changing circumstances of the world, of our own personal lives, of our own inner selves, right? So the full moon always serves as a beacon of guiding us through all of the ebb and the flow of life, right? And through the constant motion of our lives. There's one thing that we know for certain, and that is change, right? Change is always with us, transformation always with us, forcing us to become more adaptable. And in a way, this full moon helps us to become more attuned to the things that are being revealed to us during this time. And when I say attuned, I mean, sometimes things are always coming up in our minds, in our conversations with people. But do we really listen to what is being revealed? Are we hearing the message and relating it to our own experiences? That's the opportunity here at this full moon. And in a way, what hidden truths are coming to light for you? Maybe through the interaction of others in your life or through the interaction of your inner voice speaking. Aha moments. I always think of the full moon as a time of revelation, of aha, right? The "Ah, now I get it. Now I see the relationship. Now I know why this is happening." So take the time to understand what's been revealed to you during this period of time, what's being revealed to you from your own inner dynamic, what's being revealed to you from outside of you. All of these things have um, a sort of impact on you and your life, right? So, good morning, Joan Durchie. Good morning, Terry Strauss. Good morning, Asa. It's so good to have you with us. And Tom Wright says Spotify. Ooh, yes, I am on Spotify. In fact, the hour after I broadcast is spent producing the show into a podcast. And I take that podcast and I put it up on Blog Talk, I put it into Spotify, and then, of course, both of those places send it out to all of the other types of podcasting formats. So it goes wide after the live broadcast. All right. So, anyway, now let's talk a little bit about Mercury, shall we? As the ruling planet of the sign of Gemini, it plays an important role in this moon. And more so because there's this square between Mercury and Neptune at the full moon. And what do we know about squares? Right? They offer up challenges and they force us almost to pay attention to what is in contrast in our lives or to what is in conflict in our lives. So it's a very powerful call from the level of the mind, Mercury, right? A call for discernment, perhaps, a call for watching our words and paying attention to what our thoughts are focused on. And then on the other side of the equation is the square to Neptune, which has the potential for misunderstanding. Neptune, remember, blurs boundaries, blurs or makes hard to discern people's words or even your own thoughts or your own motivations for things. So we actually have to be able to consciously use the energy of the full moon in Gemini to ensure that our communication is understood, to make sure that we understand even what it is that we're trying to say, so that we can also be discerning in our words, our thoughts, our deeds, but also to be both truthful and compassionate, right? Truthful. That's a slippery slope at times, right? Sometimes the truth is hard to come by. So, in essence, today's full moon in Gemini is inviting us to dance with dualities, the duality of the mind and the emotions, the duality of the power of communication versus the ability that we have to muck up communication through communication and listening, all of these different things. It's a guiding force for us right now, kind of illuminating the path toward greater understanding, self awareness, and the impact of our words and our thoughts on our lives, right? And our relationships. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the energy of of Mercury versus Neptune. So, the aspect of Mercury and Sagittarius versus squaring Neptune and Pisces, and it creates this dynamic tension between the planet of communication and the planet associated with dreams and illusions and spirituality. So the square aspect, of course, remember, is a 90-degree relationship between the planets. They're not actually fighting one another necessarily, but the relationship is seen through the geometry of the two planets. The 90 degrees apart tells us that there is a potential clash or challenge in the energies between the two planets. Okay, that's what squares do. Now, Mercury in Sagittarius brings us expansive and optimistic communication, or that quality to our communication. And it's associated with that because of Jupiter as the ruling planet of Sagittarius, giving us that broader perspective, bringing us into that quest for knowledge or the higher perspective of things, optimism for sure. And the thirst for knowledge. Sagittarius wants to know more, and know more yet again. And it is also a sign that seeks truth. Mercury in Sagittarius, seeking, speaking, exploring truths and new ideas. Now, Neptune in Pisces, on the other hand, is introducing that sort of dreamy, idealistic energy. It is a sign and a planet that is in its own rulership here. So it's very powerful and it's deeply intuitive and compassionate energy. And in a way, Pisces can actually bring up the victim energies within all of us, right? I was watching that in family dynamics this weekend, the victim energy, right? Coming up to the surface because it cannot survive. We cannot survive, grow, and evolve as we're here to do if we keep tapping into the victim energy that we're carrying, right? And by victim energy, it's where you feel like you have no power. that people are doing things against your wishes, or people are doing things to harm you, or that situations and events and challenges and opportunities are somewhat damning to you or damaging you in some way. That's victim energy, where you feel like you are powerless to make the changes that are necessary to move out of that victim energy. Okay. So, this planetary interaction then can really inspire our creativity, our spirituality, and a sense of interconnectedness with the universe that can help us move away from that victimy energy, right? That victimy frame of reference that we have in our, it's kind of embedded so deeply within us that I don't know that we are very consciously aware of its impact in our lives. So, a challenge between Mercury and Neptune is bringing us to the realization of how maybe victimhood is playing in our a role in our lives. Now, the square aspect reminds you. Let me just remind you, it's like potential conflict there. It's sitting there waiting to come up and to, you know, jump in and show you where you are not being expansive enough in your life, or where you are not being in the truth, right? Where you're burying the truth, or where you are hiding something from yourself or from others. So we are struggling here in this aspect to bring, the logic, the reality of Mercury and Sagittarius, the truth, and also to make that in a way that's compassionate to both ourselves and others without hiding from the truth or hiding the truth from others. So it's interesting, right? We have these concrete facts on one side, given Mercury and Sagittarius is looking for that truth. And then we have the more poetic, romantic, even uh, imaginative expression of Neptune, and they tend to not be in the same realm. So that square brings that dynamic into focus for us. Now, the challenges during this aspect then can be typically miscommunication. I say something I don't mean to say, or I say it in a way that's not very thoughtful. Or typically with Sagittarius, we have this blunt expression of something. It comes out it comes out from the heart, but in with words that hurt or that are, highly charged. So we want to watch out for that. Misunderstanding, right? That we say something and it gets misunderstood by others, right? The output meets the input in a way that does not compute, right? There's the potential for deception in this, right? And of at a full moon, that deception being exposed, both for ourselves and for others, right? Things coming to light. And there could be a tendency that we have to overlook the details during this period of time. We could be acting more idealistic than practical during this time. So we have to be very discerning. We have to, discerning is an active verb. Let's say it's an active way of behavior. It means that I'm using all of my skills, my intuition, facts and figures, my mind, my logic, my knowing in a way that brings power to understanding what is happening around me, understanding the truth, being discerning. So we have to be vigilant in that during this period of time. And we want to avoid making decisions that are based solely in intuition, because remember, there's an element that's being hidden from us at the moment. But we also have to make decisions because we can't just stop our lives during this period of time, but we have to ground them in reality. So it's a nice balancing act that we have to be engaged with. So, on the positive side of a square, it stimulates the need to move forward and maybe by moving forward it means that we have a more creative outlet, a more artistic expression in our lives Maybe we have a more compassionate approach to how we handle one another or handle situations in our lives, how we communicate with one another. And it might be a time too where we're all kind of attuned to the subtle nuances of conversation. Like it's not just the words that we're hearing, but we sense the undercurrent, right? So keeping in mind that that might be something that is disturbing if you recognize that you're hearing one thing, but you're sensing something else, right? So we have to work through that. The best way I know for that is to ask for clarification. If you're not sure, you could say, let me see if I understand this correctly. This is what you meant, or this is what you're saying. Is that what you mean? So that you don't respond or react negatively to something that you think you hear somebody say that wasn't the intended messaging. Okay, so we have to be conscious for this, right? We have to be in response versus reaction. And remember, what is that all about? Taking a breath before spewing words or before jumping out or jumping in. Think, calm yourself, breathe, and then respond from a more peaceful place. Reaction just isn't, it's the problem in the world, right? It's the big problem. And it's all about a call from, if we look at this from a deeper or a bit wider perspective, it's all about a call for us to learn how to use emotional energy more appropriately, right? Engaging in, we are really good at talking about IQ in terms of our brains, our minds, and how well we learn or understand facts and figures and analyze and compare and contrast and all of that. But we are so not there when it comes to emotional intelligence, right? That's the thing that we need to work on, is how do we use this energy field of emotional energy? We get an opportunity to play with that a bit today, tomorrow, and likely the next day even. So the flexibility and adaptability is the key, being open to just understanding the fluctuating energy, going with the flow in this, being open to different perspectives, different ways of looking at problems while maintaining a healthy level of discernment, skepticism, maybe even, right? Um, Especially because it is a square and the square can bring the challenges up right to the surface. So there's that. How's everybody doing out there? Tell me how things are going with all of you. Christine, good morning to you. Teddy says, Merry night, light your lamp. Okay. God oil? I don't know what Merry Night is, Teddy, so you're gonna have to describe that more for me. Mermaid Infinity Rainbow, good morning to you as well. Gemini full moon, Tom says that means there are two of them. Well, yeah, two of them, right? The light and the dark side of the moon. You guys know, right, that the moon never shows us her dark side. We never we never see the back of the moon, if you will. It only shines its face to us. Uh At least from our perspective here on Earth. It doesn't mean she doesn't have a backside. It just means we never see it. So it's really interesting to me. I suppose we could make up a whole conversation about that fact and the astrological connotation of never seeing the fullness of a planet. What is that about? Like, does that mean like we can't ever really see the fullness of who we are inside, that it's hidden from us in some way? Is there a spiritual quality to us that we remain ignorant about, that it's time to wake up to? Hmm, I don't know. I mean, we could say all kinds of things about that. Tonight, the Virgin Mary passes through your house healing sickness. Well, that is a welcome idea, right? The energy of love and compassion and healing. Leilani, good morning to you. Hey, all, I miss you. So, that Texas drawl from the middle of Hawaii. Gotta love it. Okay, so I don't see any questions popping up, but if you have them, please go ahead and type them in. I also just want to say that I listed the link here in the chat this morning. I'm going to show it so that everybody can see it. That it's the link to register for the Astrology of 2024, the webinar that I do annually. That also comes along with the free yearly transit report for you personally, right? It's a 50 to 80 page report that I put together for each of you who buy a ticket to the webinar. The webinar is $25. It is cheap at half the price. It is a possibility for you to understand what may be going on astrologically for the year ahead and how it might impact you. And you don't have to go live, right? If you buy the ticket, you get the recording of it. So even if you can't participate in the live broadcast, which by the way is on December 14th at 12 noon Pacific time, which is 3 p.m. East Coast time, which is 8 p.m. for those of you in the Universal Time Zone. Uh, you can always get the recording and listen to it later. And it is the big deal for me for the year, right? I love doing this. And looking ahead somewhat serves for awareness, like what might I expect as the year comes up? So you can follow that link to purchase your ticket. And of course, then the reports come out shortly thereafter. Let's see, anything else going on here? No. Natasha says, I am looking into this dream of a huge ending of one I love to be the ending of the employed. Details of their life can be brought into brightness and love and employment instead of what I saw. So you're looking deeper, is what I get from that as a way to maybe hold space for that person to awaken, or is it, for them to make good decisions for themselves, to live out their truth? All of that so possible as we are going into this particular week. Good morning, Pauline. She says, hi, I've been on YouTube as a guest, no access to chat, but listening to audio. That's awesome, but it's good to see you here. Yeah, for people who want to know how that works, is you in order to be able to chat, you have to be logged into your, I think it's Gmail account, your mail account, because YouTube and Gmail have a working relationship. I don't know if one owns the other or what it is, but you have to sign into Gmail so that you can actually be in the chat. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, you should be able to just chat no matter what. It should be just right there in the stream of the broadcast. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about Jupiter. So when we talk about planets, they have roles that they play. And some of them have more personal roles, like they play a big part in your personal life or your personal story, history. And then there are planets that we call societal or cultural planets. So, first of all, let me go back. The inner planets that we would consider that are personal would be the sun and the moon. And I know they're not planets, but let's just call them that for the sake of ease. And then Mercury, Venus, and Mars, right? Those are and Earth. We've got to consider Earth. She's a planet and you live on her. So those would all be the personal planets, and the themes and the events that occur with the inner planets often bring it home, right, to us as individuals. Now, there are two planets that we consider the bridge planets between the inner and the outer planets, and that is Jupiter and Saturn. And Jupiter and Saturn really play to the level of culture and society and the things that are moving and shaking within society at any given period of time. So they form that bridge. They're not quite personal and they're not quite collective. They're more about the things that are moving through the society. And when we have the outer planets involved, so the outer planets are Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, and of course, any of the outer planets beyond that, the dwarf planet Ceres, the asteroids, the centaurs, they would all be collective planets, right? Or points. And so it's not that they don't impact you as an individual, but they're really things that are happening in the wider collective consciousness. Okay, so they're bigger. They tend to last longer. They tend to be revealed more slowly over time, right? Jupiter and Saturn also take a little more time to be revealed to us, but they're quicker than the outer planets. The inner planets have a tendency to really play out day by day, moment by moment in our lives. Okay, I hope that makes sense for everybody. Um, so, anything that Jupiter or Saturn does helps us to sort of see what the shifting landscape is in the societies that we live in, right? In the culture dynamics. All right. So now Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion and growth, right? That planet takes us to broadly moving forward, seeing the bigger picture, being more optimistic. So anything that we think of with Jupiter, it is this principle of expansion. Just like anything we think of with Saturn is more the principle of constriction. So what you get between in the collective energy, or I mean the cultural or societal energies, is this idea of expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Kind of sounds and feels like breathing, doesn't it? In breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. And we see that dynamic very clearly in our societies and in cultures, right? At times, the culture is expansive and we're growing and we're more empathetic and we're more humane. And then there are other times where we're contracting and we become more fearful and we become more self serving. And then that leads again to the out breath or to the expansion. So we have this moving back and forth, this contrast between expansion and contraction. So when one of those two planets shifts, and I'm going to now talk about human design in this case, we have Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. That's an astrological fact at the moment. It's in the sign of Taurus, a sign of security and stability and very practical earthiness, right? It rules our banking system, our cultural ideas about money and value and self worth or worth in general. How do we value what we value? Why do we value a football player's salary higher than a teacher's salary? Those kinds of things, right? Values that we hold like that. And Jupiter is changed gates actually yesterday, and moved into the gate 27, which is a gate that lies on the sacral center. It moves toward the spleen, out toward the gate 50. And the theme associated with the gate 27 is responsibility. Responsibility. And it emphasizes the idea of taking responsibility for oneself and others, being a responsible citizen of society. And it also encourages a sense of duty and a willingness to provide support to those people important to you and helping to nourish. This gate was also called nourishment at one point, and giving nourishment to those around you. In other words, it's a very human energy of caring that Jupiter has just moved into and now wants to expand, right? That's the expansion potential. And Jupiter is also known for that optimistic energy. And when Jupiter moves into the gate 27, it can amplify the themes of responsibility, making individuals and societies in particular more inclined to take on larger roles in that society or more responsibilities, but also wants us to embrace growth in areas of support and nourishment and adopting that more positive, expansive mindset toward duties and responsibilities and taking care of others, etc. So during this time period, which will be about the next 30 days or so while Jupiter sits here, there could be a collective focus or a more societal focus on nurturing and supporting others, individuals, like us, each as individuals can feel a greater responsibility for the well-being of the people in your lives, your community, your family, your tribe, maybe even the world at large, being more response able. And there could be, in within us a trigger to be more about contributing to the growth and nourishment of the world or of those in need. Interesting because it's kind of happening right at this crux between Thanksgiving and Christmas time, where we naturally turn to gift giving and to sharing of our bounty with others, right? So it's an interesting timing. And by the way, this doesn't happen every year. It just doesn't. Jupiter takes 12 years, almost 13 years to move around. And so it's probably been a while since we've had Jupiter sitting here at this particular gate. Now, Jupiter also rules our social responsibilities. And then with this energy now, we might be expanding that role, influencing us in as a collective or as a citizenry. I like that word to increase our awareness about how everybody is faring in the world. Um, Things like social justice become more important. Environmental concerns become more important to us. Community well-being become more important to us. We feel a stronger urge and desire to contribute to those structures, to those societal structures. But there's also challenges here, right? Because this is an energy encouraging responsibility, which means there's also the potential to overcommit ourselves to things, to taking inappropriate responsibility, to letting responsibility lead us to control or being controlled. So we have to watch for Jupiter's expansive nature leading us to take on more than we can handle. Um, but also it's pushed to have us get into other people's business and take on things that are not appropriate for us. It's a balance that we have to be able to be practical in our experience and in the way that we are sharing of ourselves in the world. We have to realistically take on only those things that we can manage, those things that are truly ours to take on, right? In what is her name? Byron Katie. She's always, she's a great, if you have not read any of her books, Loving What was huge in my life. She talks about your business, their business, and God's business. And we are always crossing over into other people's business or trying to take on spiritual things and make changes and things that are not our business, right? You are your business. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't hold responsibility to others in our lives, but we have to understand where our responsibility lies, where it begins and where it ends, right? We want to ideally help others to become self disciplined and able to take care of themselves, right? To enable them to take care, to be responsible, to be accountable for themselves, but we don't wanna just throw them out there and say, "Here, have at it. Do your best." Right? That's not the right way either. So we have to find a balance here, and Jupiter will be taking us on that journey. So on a personal level, this may encourage us to explore more of our personal growth, taking responsibility for our own personal growth, for our actions, being more disciplined in the things that we do that are designed to make us more responsible for ourselves and for seeing how that impacts our relationships and contributing to the world, right? You have to be your own power, your own best friend in order to really be able to enjoy the world and for to be able to contribute to the world. Um, there's a huge opportunity for all of us for self discovery during this time, for the journey toward empowerment, which I always think that's a journey, right? We don't just become empowered overnight. We may choose to become empowered, but the process is a journey. And that might be because we're becoming more uh, aware of our deeper responsibilities, where we have abdicated our responsibilities. In other words, given our power over to others, right? Inappropriately so, or where we have been usurping other people's powers inappropriately. So we're all trying to get back in the right lane, right? The lane that is correct for us, but nurturing ourselves and being accountable for ourselves, being responsible to ourselves, but not ignoring the fact that we have others around us. The key is to try to help others also find the path to their own responsibility. So now this could be showing up for you in different ways depending on how your human design chart is set up. So if you know your human design chart, and Asa, this is how we're going to be able to help answer that question for you. If you have the gate 27 open in your chart, it would be white, right? If you're looking at your human design chart and you go down to the gate 27, which is on the left side of the sacral center, leading off toward the spleen center, that if it's white means you have it open, which means it's undefined for you and inconsistent energy. But now that it's consistent energy, you may suddenly find that this is a theme that's popping up in your life that you need to be aware of. How are you nourishing yourself? How are you nurturing yourself? Because by far and away, what this gate says is that you have to have your own nurturing, your own nourishment first, or you don't have the energy to go out and appropriately help the world or those around you or your family. So it's like the filling up your cup so that you have the energy to help others. It's the same thing as the stewardess on the airplane that's telling you if the oxygen masks drop, put yours on first, then help those around you. There's a reason for that, right? So we have to be very aware of this. Now, that 27, if it's open, becomes defined. So these, like I say, are things that are suddenly coming up for you. But some of you may also have the gate 50 on the other side on the spleen center colored in. And it could be colored in black, it could be colored in red, it could be colored in striped, and it could go halfway across the channel or it could be forming the whole channel. But the gate 50 is about the fear of failing in your responsibilities to your family, to your friends, to your society, to your culture. And so it can be the cause for us to keep giving and giving and giving and doing and doing, maybe even to the point of taking over somebody's life because you feel like they can't do it like you can do it, or taking on more responsibility yourself because nobody can do it like I can do it, which of course is exactly opposite of what's called for in that gate. What's called for is balancing. It's really about teaching others to help themselves. So you're the teacher in that gate 50, right? You are the one that is understanding that by teaching the values, teaching the tricks of the trade, that you're empowering that person to be responsible for their own success. But ultimately, what can happen, at least at first, until you're aware of it, is you take over people's lives or you take over the responsibility because you have a fear that you're going to fail them in some way. So we want to balance that, right? So you might have the 50 open as well, which means it's not defined. And now with the 27 that is going to be defined by Jupiter, that idea of nourishing and responsibility and accountability will play out with people in your lives that get attracted to you. They might have the gate 50, and that becomes an electromagnetic that attracts them to you, and that will be how it plays out in your life. It won't be necessarily something that you carry with you all the time, that you don't recognize in you all the time. All right. And in other cases, like we have a wonderful person out there who's a reflector. I don't know which gates she actually has defined here, but this can, bring definition to two centers in her chart. Both the sacral and the spleen center giving her access to energy that she's not normally getting in her life. So it for you, Terry, might be something that you want to be really watchful of because it suddenly can bring all of this responsibility, accountability, self-nurturing, nurturing others energy to you, right? To you. So want to be able to watch for that. Okay. So I hope that answered your question, Asa. What if it creates a channel with your personality, Venus, gate 50? Let's talk about Venus here. So, Venus at gate 50 is a natural nurturer, right? You naturally care for people around you. You love people, right? You love your family and you take steps to make sure that they are taken care of. But Venus at gate 50, remember in the gene keys, hold on, in the gene keys, gate 50 in the shadow is corruption. Not corruption like we think of in the government or something like that, but the corruption of a code, right? Where the code is being misread. Like we misread responsibility as our job versus our responsibility being to teach others to take on their own responsibility, right? So we misread the code, we take over their lives, we smother mother, and Venus is all doing it out of love, right? But really, that love can turn sour because now you're mothering, right? Now you're taking on too much. Now you're becoming depleted because of how much energy you're putting to taking care of others instead of taking care of yourself, right? Now, if you're a woman out there listening to this, I guarantee you, you have played this role at some point in your life because we are natural nurturers. Not that you guys out there are not natural nurturers, but the feminine energy is very nurturing energy, and we are the ones that mother our children. And fathers, even who have been very active in nurturing their children, can also feel this unrelenting responsibility toward their children. But you've done your best, you've taught them, you've trained them, you've taught them the rules of the road, how to be responsible citizens themselves. So we have to watch for how much that we're taking on of the responsibility for those around us. It's not appropriate. It might seem like, yeah, she's such a good mother. She just takes care of those kids all the time. And right? Yeah, on the surface, that sounds really good. But at what cost is that occurring? If the cost is to your own well-being, to your own sanity, then it's corrupted. That is a corrupted way of behavior. So put it in its right and perfect place. And that is put responsibility squarely on the shoulders of each person as an individual. It doesn't mean that we make our 2-year-olds responsible. They're not capable. But you can teach a 2-year-old how to become more responsible, right? You can teach them about what to do with their emotions. You can teach them about how it is that we value one another in our interactions because you're the role models as well. And our kids, as they grow, we give them more responsibility. We teach them more about the values that we live by. But what we tend to almost overdo is, and maybe it's because our society has become so large and because our society has become so busy that we tend to overdo it, right? We just over smother, over mother. And that means that we are all a bunch of depleted souls trying to help other people from a depleted space. Can't do it, right? If you can't breathe, you can't help others breathe. So we have a big opportunity for the next 30 days or so while Jupiter is here to help us understand responsibility and accountability and nourishing ourselves and nourishing others and the right way that that needs to take place. Now, by the way, just as an aside, um, since we talked about Jupiter, we're Saturn right now. Well, Saturn is sitting at the gate 55, which is a gate that sits on the emotional center. We think of it as the gate of abundance. Sometimes it's called the gate of the abundance of spirit. In the gene keys, it's called the gate of freedom. The 55 is a very powerful gate for showing us that abundance is a birthright and not something that you must fight, struggle, work for. It is a birthright. It comes when we have faith. Sometimes that gate is called faith. We have faith in the abundant nature of the universe. We have faith that everything is working out in its highest and best for us, even if it looks like it's not happening the way we wanted it to happen, even if it looks like it's more struggle than it is ease, right? So the 55, Saturn, causing us to form a new foundation of abundance through spirit, right? Trusting and having faith in the divine nature of each one of us, of our own inner self, right? Right? You are the crossroads between spirit and matter, and you matter, right? In all of that. Okay. So let's do a couple of card pulls for us for the week ahead. And any insight that anybody has out there about a deck that they would like to see, I am totally open to that. And I'll start us off with, while I'm waiting to hear from all of you, what am I going to start us off with? I think I'm going to start us off with some wisdom through the wisdom of the oracle. And that is, sorry, I'm getting a buzz, buzz, buzz in my ear. Um, let's pull a card here from the Wisdom of the Oracle. It's a Colette Baron Reed deck. It's one. Oh, and that card jumped out. I can't wait to see what it is. It. I love spiritual stuff. I really do. It's called Higher Power. It is card number 4. 4 suggesting a foundation, the need for a foundation, that our roots, our guiding light is our higher power. I mean, look at that card. You see the angel in there with her bright light coming from the crown. There's also other faces in there, kind of suggesting that we are more than what we see. Higher power. Let's read about this one. That's not the book. Card number 4. Okay. And it says, the essential meaning of the card is conscious contact with a higher power, the presence of the divine, seeing source energy in all things, committing to a partnership with spirit. And it says, this card reminds you that you are more than a person trying to get ahead and make things happen for yourself and others. You have an immortal soul and are gifted with with a human life through which a higher power can express itself. Let me say that again. You have an immortal soul and are gifted with a human life through which a higher power can express itself. At this time, you need to be conscious of your connection to spirit and foster it through prayer and meditation. Ask, what is the highest good for all? How can I serve? Then get out of your own way and trust that there is a plan for your life more wondrous than you can ever know. You are always protected and divinely directed. Higher power. I couldn't have picked a better card for us on a Monday morning of a full moon with all of these powerful aspects and changes going on in the planets. Mm. Dragon deck. Thanks, J-Lo. I think that's a great one. I haven't played with the dragons for a while. So let me dig for them here. You can tell which ones I've been using because they're the ones that are all on top. Dragons. So the dragon deck is by, what is her name? Diana Cooper, the dragon oracle cards. Love these cards too. The wise dragons. And let's see what we get. Animals. Okay, Catherine, I think I might have enough time to pull an animal card. So a dark blue galactic dragon. Look at this beauty. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. And underneath it, it says, helps you listen to the voice of the universe, ignite the codes of your master blueprint, access cosmic wisdom, and enter higher service. The dark blue galactic dragon. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's see what this says. First of all, I got to find out what dimension this dragon comes from. And dark blue. Nope, not deep blue. Dark blue galactic dragon. Wow, he is a ninth dimensional dragon. So he's higher, higher, higher. So maybe all the struggles and the strife that we're going through is our moving into higher dimensions. So these dragons shimmer with golden sparkles of cosmic wisdom, for they harness the light of the stars, planets, and constellations. When we are ready, they touch us with this light, enabling us to embody the illumined energy and wisdom they contain. While many of us are now able to attune to the ninth dimension, it is still an awesome light filled with joy, love, and wisdom beyond our current comprehension. Dark blue galactic dragons can send bursts of this cosmic searchlight through us to ignite the hidden codes of our master blueprint, the seventh dimensional light of our soul, so that we can listen to the voice of the universe. Remember, our soul must be at least seventh dimensional for us to receive permission to incarnate on Earth. Guidance. Your soul journey is taking you to the stars and beyond. The dark blue galactic dragons now invite you to communicate with the masters of the universe, the intergalactic council, where you can contribute your energy for the smooth ascension of the planet. It is time to listen and serve. Ask the wondrous dragon who has come to you to tune you into the intergalactic council, where you will be offered the honor of petitioning the council. Decide whether your petition is for the welfare of animals or humanity, or to assist the ascension of the planet. Then ask the dragon to take you to the council to present your petition. Dark blue galactic dragons will also instruct during meditation or sleep. This will enable you to serve in a galactic capacity and will hugely expand your energy fields. Woo! Dark blue galactic dragon. I love it. All right. And just for fun, let's pull an animal card. I know it's already after 9 and I got to go, but um, I love animals. So let's see what our animals have to say. Also, I would ask prayers from all of you out there in prayer. I'm going to just take that card because it's the one that jumped out. Oh, 2 jumped out. For my daughter's dog, Loki. He had a little accident on Thanksgiving Day and ripped his dew claw and had to have surgery to I'm not sure if they removed it or if they what they did, but he has been extraordinarily ill, likely from anesthesia, medication. I'm not sure, but he's such a sweet baby that I hate to see him suffering at all. So prayers, please, for Loki. And here are the cards that I pulled. 2 wonderful ones. First of all, whale, the whale spirit, trust the great mystery, and peacock that says, let it shine. Peacock and whale. I think we got whale last week, so this seems to be like a continuing message, perhaps. Card number 65, which is an 11, which is about illumination, seeing the light. And let's see what it says. Uh, Whale spirit is an ancient creature who was here at the beginning of time and who has seen everything, felt everything, and heard everything that has ever transpired on this planet. In the hidden realms, where all things must gather first before manifesting into form, whale spirit is the keeper, singing the soul of the whole world from the deeper waters of the coldest seas. When whale spirit appears, it is a reminder that there is a great mystery that you must accept without intellectually trying to understand it. Some things cannot be known by the mind, only experienced through the heart, through intuition, and through the peripheral senses that part the invisible veils separating the visible world from the great manifesting consciousness in the hidden realms. Now is the time for you to immerse yourself in the great mystery of spirit and to trust that within the invisible, what you can't see now are the seeds of your intentions being tended to by angels. There's the whale. Trust the great mystery. And then peacock, card number 46, which is a 10, which is a 1, and a 1 of new beginnings. So let's go to 46. I don't think we've gotten peacock in a while. Peacocks are another one of my favorite animals, besides pandas and dragonflies and deer and dogs and cats. Okay, I love animals. When is the last time you shook a tail feather and shined your light for all to see? Within each of us is a peacock spirit yearning for expression, and you are called now to show the world the gorgeous creature you are, for you are a manifestation of spirit. Come out from the shadows, Peacock Spirit says, and show your true colors so that others may be inspired to express their own exquisiteness. Dance as if you remember that you are made of stardust and grace, filled with life force energy and sparkling light. You are a channel for divine love, and your dance is one of a kind. Catch the light and help it to shimmer and dance in celebration of your good fortune of being right here, right now. Spirit wants you to be joyful so that others may get up and dance along with you. Peacock, strut your stuff. Look at that light shining out from the heart there. I love that. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Uh, this week is going to be a weird week for me. So Wednesday, Tam and I will be on with Astro Inklings at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Thursday, we have a new baby coming, and that means Friday is a little tenuous for me at this point. Likely I will be on Friday, but if I'm not, it's because I'm at the hospital with the baby. You just never know what goes on with the birth of a child. So I will definitely see you Wednesday, and most likely we'll see you on Friday. I hope you all will join me then as well. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.